Welcome to my channel, everybody. Today we're going to be making this fun heart clock using the Nick Pro Epoxy Resin. This is a deep pour resin, so it has a 2-to-1 ratio. So I will be using 2 separate cups for this, just for precision and measuring. It's a very deep mold, so we definitely want to make sure that we're using a deep pour resin for this. So I'm going to mix up a combination of 8 ounces of part A. So we'll go ahead and pour that in, and I'll be using 4 ounces of the part B for a total of 12 ounces to get started. And I'm not sure I'll end up filling this mold all the way to the top for this clock. It may be a little deep for the flowers that I'm going to use. If I were doing a wedding arrangement, it would be perfect for preserving flowers from a wedding arrangement, but we're just going to use some dried flowers in this, so I don't know that we will go all the way to the top, but we're going to start with 12 ounces and see what we get here. So Nick Pro is a very nice resin. Here's the B 2-to-1 ratio by volume, so this is the 4 ounces. Very nice resin. It's clear, very low odor, easy to work with. Because it is a deep pour resin, these tend to be less viscous, less thick, if you will. So the bubbles can come to the surface a lot easier when you're working with the deeper molds. It's really hard sometimes to get bubbles out of the deeper molds. Even if you torch them, alcohol spritz them, whatever method you're using, it can be difficult. So the deeper pour resins are a little bit easier to work with when it comes to getting out bubbles. And because it is a deeper mold, we don't want it to flash cure or get too hot too quickly, and then it won't set or cure properly. So it's important that in a mold that's this deep, we're going to use the deeper pour resin. So I'm going to go ahead and combine the part A, which is in my left hand here. You can see some of the bubbles there, and part B into this larger mixing bowl. And I want to get as much out of these 2 measuring cups as I can. Again, as you all probably know, resin is very expensive, so I want to make sure that I'm getting every bit out of here that I can. My surface is flat. It's about 77 degrees in my kitchen workspace here, which is important. You need to have the right temperature in your room, and a flat surface is very important. Must be level. You should wear a respirator or a mask and work in a well-ventilated area. And of course, you want to always wear gloves. This stuff is sticky and nasty when you get it on your hands. So I'm just going to go through and scrape what I can out of the 2 containers here, the 2 measuring cups. Let's stir for 5 minutes, set for 5 minutes, and we'll be back. All right, let's go ahead and add some heat. It's been about 10 minutes total now since we started. And there are a few bubbles left in there, so I want to get the rest of those bubbles out. And we'll get ready to pour this into the mold here. Let's get the mold in the middle where you can see it. Hopefully I'm close enough for you. And we're just going to go ahead and pour the resin into our mold. And I'm going to do about maybe a little over half in there right now. So maybe about 6 ounces. Because I want just enough to coat the bottom so I can lay the flowers down in here. But I need to save some for pouring on top of the flowers. So let's put a little bit of heat on here and get rid of some of these extra bubbles. We have about 45 minutes of working time with this deep pour resin, maybe a little bit longer, so we're not in a hurry. We can take our time. Make sure that we're getting all of the bubbles out that we can. And I'm going to pop a few here with my dotting tool. And one of the things I learned about working with some of these molds is you really need to take your dotting tool and go all the way around the margins of your mold, because bubbles like to form around those margins, or around the edges, if you will. So I just take my dotting tool and I try to trace around the edges. You can still see some around the top. Let's go ahead and focus on getting rid of these here. Next we'll take our flowers. I got a few flower packs here. And the flowers that I'm using are on Amazon.com. Put them in the description. And I'm going to fast forward through this so that you don't have to watch me do all of these flowers.
Take me back to the nights we felt alive, picking up the pieces on a summer night. I didn't know that I would feel just like my heart's on fire whenever I'm with you. Cause we go back in time to thrills I miss, and all the things I wish we did. All I know is that I need somebody like you. Cause I can't waste another night sitting here alone, hoping for your voice on the telephone. I know it's a supercut as you walk away, playing in my mind all the things I'd never close my eyes. And the sky's on fire. I can't waste another night sitting here alone. We can do it all again, and I'll never let you go. Never gonna let that go. Never gonna let, never, never let you go. Never gonna let that go. No, never let you go. Take me back to another sunrise, back when all I ever needed was by my side. You're a star brighter than Venus, I'm your satellite.
Now that we have our flowers all in place, I'm going to go ahead and take the remaining resin that I have in the bowl here, and I'm going to pour it over the top and just put an extra coating of resin on the top of the flowers. They are going to float a little bit, which is fine. That's why I've left room in the mold. I'm going to let these set for a little bit. Let this top layer of resin that I'm putting on here now, I'm going to let this set for 4 to 6 hours, and then I'll come back and I'll put a final top coat or a final layer of resin on. So what this will do is this will keep the flowers from floating any higher, and I can put a nice coat of resin over the top of them, so the back of the clock will be nice and smooth and the flowers won't protrude through the resin. So just a little technique I've worked on as I've worked with dried flowers and learned the hard way. I didn't like having to sand all of the little projections sticking off the back. I like a nice shiny glossy back, and you'll see that at the end when we're done with the project. So I'm just kind of moving flowers around a little bit. The greens, and this is where you get to be artistic. You can put any kind of flowers, any colors you want. This is a deep enough mold. You could do a wedding bouquet. You'd have to take it apart, obviously, but you could use flowers from a wedding bouquet in here. You just need more resin. And I've gone ahead and I've mixed an additional 8 ounces of resin here. And we're going to go ahead and pour this over the top. And what I want to do is I want to fill this hole here. I after looking at this, I thought, you know, I'm going to go ahead and cover this with flowers. So this back white area that I'm pouring the resin over the top of, that you can see there, that needs to be covered with flowers. So the back of the clock normally protrudes to the back side of these different clock molds, but this one is not going to. The clock is going to actually set in. So I'm going to need some additional resin here, and I'm going to have to fill this in with flowers. And that way we won't see this big old white hole here at the end. So hang with me, you'll see what I mean when we get there. I'm just covering up some more of the flowers here and the greens with the resin. And I'm going to fill this in here in just a second with more flowers. So I want to make sure I get enough resin to cover up that center hole. And I did add some glitter. So we're going to just add some more flowers around here and fill in this hole. I'm going to cover those with a little bit more resin. And then I will come back, like I said, in about 4 to 6 hours, and I will add additional resin after this is hardened enough. And the flowers can no longer float. They get kind of trapped in there. Kind of like a sticky fly trap. They can't move anymore once this starts to set after about 4 to 6 hours. And I'm trying to gauge how deep I want to go with this too, so just move these around a little. And then we'll come back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish putting the rest of the resin into this mold. I'm going to come back in 4 to 6 hours. I'm going to mix another about 6 ounces, pour it over, let it set, and come back tomorrow. All right, it's the next day. It's now been 24 hours. This is nice and set, and it's ready to be demolded. So let's go ahead and get this off here and see what we look like. Oh, this is coming off very nicely. So far, so good. Nice. So now you can see I filled in that hole in the back with the flowers. So otherwise, if I hadn't done that, it would have been a big gaping hole there. Let's get this mold back into shape here. All right. I'm going to go ahead and set the face of the clock in here. Fits perfectly. A little bit of a scuff there. It's kind of heavy. Nice 3D effect. The back looks spectacular. Oh, this turned out really good, guys. I'm very happy with it. I wish I would have had some bigger flowers to put in there. But all in all, it's going to look pretty good on my dresser. Indeed. Lovely. There we have it. So here you have it, the front and the back. So thank you so much for joining me today. I know your time is valuable. It takes a lot to put these videos together, so hopefully you've learned something today. Come back and see me. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and leave me your feedback. Be safe and have a good one.